welcome to Murphy's garden. It's now sort of the beginning, middle of August, and the weather's starting to feel a bit different. There is that kind of feel of autumn in the air. It's windy today, it's a lot cooler, but the garden's still looking good. But I think it's really important at this time of year just to go around and review what's been working, what hasn't worked so well, so that I can start thinking about changes that I need to make in the next few months as we approach autumn. So one of the first changes that I'm dying to make, and that is we've got a lot of these daylilies, herbaceous vulva, the common daylily, and although they do look nice and they do provide a lot of colour, they last for quite a long time. I've got so many of them. I think what happened was when we were renewing the borders, we were making changes a couple of years ago, and it was in the winter and I didn't really know what some things were, and this was one of them. It had died back, didn't know what it was, so I stuck it in everywhere, and as a result I've got so many clumps of it, and it's just a bit too much. Although it's a nice plant, you can have too much of a good thing, and there are other nicer plants that I would like to put in their place. So hemeros means day, and kalos means beauty, so it means effectively beauty for a day. And the reason for that is, and the reason why it's also called daylily, incidentally it's not actually a lily, but it's called daylily. It's got these flowers, and they last for one day, and then they open up in the morning, and then during the evening of the same day they start to fade and they start to go over. If you just snap them off, it does keep coming like that. So yeah, just snap these dead spent flowers over. This is called escape, not escape as in to get away, but S-C-A-P-E. This is escape, and it's got different sort of branches coming off it, and you can see there's lots more blooms on that one. So there's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more blooms. You do get quite a lot of flower for your money kind of thing. So that one will last quite a bit longer, and similarly with that one, you just go round. It's quite labour intensive because every day you're meant to go round and just snap these off. It's quite satisfying though, I must admit. It's quite a nice job. So you just do that. But anyway, as I said, I've got too many of them. So this clump, for one, definitely needs to go. I'm not a big fan of orange actually in the garden. I've always liked the garden to be kind of pinks and blues, a bit of yellow and white. And I have got a bit of red and a bit of orange that's crept in. We've got the crocosmia next to me here as well, and then this orange daylily. Yeah, it's probably my least favourite colour in the garden, but I will let it stay a little bit, but it's just outstayed its welcome. There's a bit too much of it. So just to prove my point, here we've got 3 clumps of this daylily. This is a slightly different variety, which has got a kind of more of a red petal, which is probably a bit prettier than this is a more common one. There are I read 80,000 cultivars of this plant. So there are plenty to choose from. There are yellow ones and probably ones that are a bit nicer. This is a very common one. So yeah, I think there's far too many here, and I do want to sort of refine this, and certainly I'd probably take these 2 out. And while we're on the subject of changes, I think this part of the garden is the bit that really lets the garden down. It's very boring. We've got just a square of grass here, and I do want to introduce some height and just different types of planting. I think it's quite repetitive, the same planting repeated again and again. So the plan for this area is I've got some trees, 2 trees that I'd like to put in probably baseless pots here and here, and that would just create a bit more height. They're amilanchias, which we've got we bought earlier in the year, and we've got them growing on in the vegetable patch. So they're a good size. So I would like to perhaps remove some of this grass and make a square, and perhaps even use different types of other ornamental grasses rather than just this boring grasses. So that's a project for hopefully the autumn, or certainly in the spring next year. So on a windy day like this, you can really appreciate the benefits of having grasses in the garden. This is a miscanthus. It's Miscanthus Yakushima dwarf, and it's really lovely. It's got this kind of slightly variegated leaf with a white stripe through it, and I really like it, and I think it's working here very well with the thyme. And in fact, this daylily in the background, actually I think I'll keep that one because I think that works quite well. And behind here we've got this beautiful acid blue mophead hydrangea, and I think the orange and the blue really go well together. We've also got some white achillea, which is looking good. So I quite like this combination, and I think I'll keep that. but I do want to introduce more grasses into my garden. Speaking of grasses, I want to go and show you some other changes I want to make in the sunken garden. And this is a lovely combination. We've got these little drumstick alliums, and I love the way the purple is reflected in this, the purple accents on the hydrangea. It's really lovely. Unfortunately, they have just started to flop onto the grass, which makes grass cutting a bit tricky, but they have been lovely. So this is the border we spoke of in the garden tour video that for me just isn't working. I love the other three, I think they're doing really well, but this one just isn't. And the culprit again is this massive clump of daylilies. They just look insipid. They don't work well with the eupatorium behind. The pink and the orange just for me jar, and then we've got pink of the zinnias in front, again jars, don't like it at all. So what I'd like to do, look at the back here, we've also got some salvias. This is a salvia amistad. I like that, and I've got two big plants in pots at the front which are getting a bit battered and they're not working for me so well in pots. So I'm going to put the other two when they're finished, I'm going to put them here to make a more impactful clump. That will look nice with the yellow daisies in the background. And in front of this salvia we've got a clump of campanula. They're the little white campanula, which were nice in the spring, but they're not really doing much at this time of year, and we just need something a bit of a bigger impact here. So, and lots of geraniums again, which I think a lot of those could come out, and we need something of brighter colours. So we've got to think about that area and this area and come up with a better plan. So we'll just have a look at the other three borders just by comparison, just to show you how they're working. So this border's been great, and it's been great all season. It's looking really good. It is starting to fade a bit. We've got the crocosmia here. I think that's crocosmia, I think it's Lucifer. We've got the eupatorium, and then the aconites, or the monk's hood. They have been absolutely fabulous. They're starting to go over, but they've been flowering, gosh, for 2-3 months. So again, there's another clump of daylilies. That I don't think that's really necessary. That can come out again. But otherwise, I think this one's looking quite good. We have got a Stipa gigantica here, which I did put in. It's completely in the wrong place, I think. So that could come out and potentially be used elsewhere. And this area, a little bit of congested planting here. We've got this chrysanthemum, which is a nice shape. Last year it kind of sprawled all over the grass, so I did remove some of it. So it's quite a nice shape. But I have got this miscanthus grass behind in a similar place to that one, which is a little bit lost there. I don't know what you think, but yeah, it looks a bit squashed, and a nice clump of achillea. Excuse me. So yeah, I think this side's looking okay. Incidentally, this is a clump of sedum. We did do the video on the Chelsea chop earlier in the year, and this is a clump that I didn't chop back. I completely forgot about this one. It's a different variety, and you can see it's starting to sort of splay in the middle, and it's got this big, not very nice hole in the middle. So that one should have been chopped back, so I must try and remember that for next year. And while we're on the subject of the Chelsea chop and sedum, so this is the sedum that we partially cut back. And as you can see, it's quite a nice shape. It's got really strong, sturdy stems. And where we've cut, you can see the cut, and you've got another 3 shoots coming off where it was cut. So that's worked quite well. I'll just show you the other clump, which we cut very harshly back, just to compare to see what's best to do for next year. So we'll just go and have a look at that. So this is the clump of sedum that I brutally attacked. And I must admit, after I'd done that, I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? But actually, of all the sedum clumps, this is looking really nice. Obviously, it's delayed the flowering considerably, but we've got this very bushy little clump of sedum, lovely strong stems, and I think that's going to look a treat in the autumn. So while we're on the subject of the plants that I Chelsea chopped, this is the eupatorium. It's looking really lovely. It's a lovely plant. What I did with this one, I didn't Chelsea chop the whole thing, but I just sort of graduated the heights. There is quite a lot of structural support underneath, but I think by just taking out a bit of the weight from the sides, I think that's really helped. And as you can see, today of all days, it's a very windy day, and this is when it gets prone to snapping. But so far it's withstanding the winds quite well. So I think I will definitely do that again this year, just sort of graduate the heights, and that just, I think that really has helped. Here on the trellis is this kind of wild rose. I don't remember planting it. I don't know what it is. It's had no blooms on it whatsoever. It's quite vigorous, but I don't really want it. If it's not going to perform, it's for the chop. So I'm now in the sunken garden, and this is Stipa irundiuceus, I think that's how you say it, also known as pheasant tail grass. Now this was lovely. We planted this probably about 3 years ago, and last year it was just resplendent, really beautiful, really loved it. And then I didn't cut it back. I sort of read that you're meant to just kind of pull out the old foliage like this. Oh, in fact, it is coming out now, but when I tried to do this before, it just wouldn't come out. It's not coming out terribly easily. I've got some new growth on it. This is what it should look like, this nice growth here. But I've read since, I did do a bit of research into it, and it said that they just get a bit old after a few years and you're better just to replace it. Now the good thing is, well, the good and the bad thing is that they seed everywhere. So you've got loads of new plants that are seeded all over the place. So the idea is you're meant to bring that one on and have an heir and a spare, as it were. So dig this one out and then replace it with this. However, as I said, this seeds everywhere, and I'm finding it all over the garden. I find it in the parterre, under the roses. I find it in the big herbaceous borders up the top. Don't quite know how. I can only presume it's gone into the compost heap and it's self-seeded. So I've kind of gone off this grass now. So I'm looking at other options of what perhaps I could put in its place. So just doing a bit of research as to what grasses I might plant here. I'm looking at different pennisetums. I definitely want something that doesn't self-seed everywhere and is quite trouble-free. So I quite like, I think there's one called, which one was it? I took a note of it. It's called Desert Plains, and it's a fountain grass. So I might have a look at that, see if I can source that from somewhere, and then dig these up and have a good weed of this area. We've got this lovely phormium in the middle, which is very nice. It has this nice, these nice flower heads, and then we've got the other pheasant tail grass on the other side. So it looks quite uniform and quite sort of symmetrical. So I want to keep that look because I did really like the look. I'm just not very happy with the appearance of the grass this year. So this is Limas arnerius, or also known as Blue June. This was the first grass that I ever had in, it was actually in my last garden. I brought it with me. I did really like it. However, I've since gone off it. It's very invasive. It's actually not too bad in this position. It doesn't seem to encroach too much here. I did have it in the herbaceous borders and it went everywhere and it was a nightmare. So if it behaves itself, it can stay. Any bad behaviour and it's out. But at the moment, it looks quite nice. And it actually looks nice against this dark fence. It's bright and it's light and it looks good. So it can stay for the moment. So this is a well-behaved little grass. I've just got it here. It's actually in the woodland garden just at the edge, and it's quite nice. It's very well behaved. It stays put. To be honest, I don't know what it's called. I don't even know where I got it from, but it's very nice, and I quite like that. So it just provides a bit of interest and it moves. It has nice movement. So I'm really pleased with this area. We've got the hydrangea lime lights, which were moved last year or earlier this year, and they're looking really lovely. Really like them here. The light, bright colour just lifts this area, and in front of them we've got a big clump of hostas which look great, and then these stilbes which are looking really pretty. We did have a mole appear actually. You can see just the remnants of this molehill. I think it's just because it was dry, it was trying to find moisture, so hopefully it won't come back. But anyway, other than that, really pleased with this area. The arum lilies don't seem to have done very much this year actually, for some reason. But everything else here has. It's looking good. So we'll just go over and have a look at the other side of the path, some changes I want to do on the other side. So here I am underneath this rather large phormium. It's got massive. I do like it. It's called Jester, and it's been lovely in the last few years. Last year it looked absolutely beautiful. This year, as you can see, it's going quite brown and not quite so nice. I have watched a John Lord video in which he just cut the whole thing to the ground. You can prune them in the spring, taking out, it says take out the old stems and cut them right hard back in the, not in the spring, sorry, in the autumn. So, but I'm going to do a John Lord on this one and just cut it, the whole thing hard back and see what happens. I just want to experiment really. I have got other phormiums. The one So kind of a yellowy green one over that side is still looking quite nice. So we'll experiment with this one and cut it hard back and see what happens. So watch this space, and we'll come revisit in the spring, see if I've killed it. I'm ashamed to show you this area. This is my horrible corner. This was our old vegetable patch. It was one of the first areas that we sort of cultivated and got under control, and you can see it's now no longer under control. This is the area that we use to put any surplus stock or plants that we want to bring on for other projects. So this is the amilanchias that I spoke of. So we've got two, and they were £28, and they look lovely, healthy plants. They're doing quite well. They've put on quite a lot of growth this season. And we've also got here two Quercus ilex, and they're lovely. I love the sort of Mediterranean feel of these. We've got this kind of silvery bark, and then the lovely leaves. The idea, they like full sun, and the plan is with these, bring them on a bit, and then when we come to do the front of the garden, a big project for the future, I want to put these at the front in bottomless pots. So that's why I've bought them. I just want to bring them on a bit. So this area, we have got big plans for this area. It's quite a nice area. It doesn't get a lot of sun, which is why we relocated the vegetable patch to elsewhere in the garden, but it is walled. Could be quite nice. I think the idea is we'll take this fence down and open up to the area beyond and make this into a nice little walled courtyard. And the idea is, with it being in sort of full shade, is to have lots of box and lots of structural planting and make it into a lovely little courtyard. So we have sort of sketched out a few little plans for this area. And who knows when we'll get to that, possibly next year, possibly not, we'll have to see. So I'm now in the parterre. Can't really decide what to do with this. Right, I should tell you what's happened. So here we planted the box hedge, we planted these roses. These are Ballerina roses. My mum saw these at Hever Castle in Kent and said they looked absolutely spectacular, and that was what I should plant in my parterre. So I duly bought the plants. I bought very small plants from a company called J. Parker. They were like that size, and I think I planted about 5 in each of the 4 areas, and they've done okay. They've gradually got bigger, and then the first year when they flowered, I had this odd anomaly where I had pale pink flowers, white centre and pale pink petals, which looked very pretty. But then very oddly, on one side, 2 of the areas produced very dark pink flowers. I'll just go and grab one, hang on. So I'm back again. So this is on the other side, the flowers look like that. They look the same flower, very similar stamen and everything, but the colour is completely different. So last year I decided, maybe there's something wrong with the soil, maybe there's something different on one side than the other. So I put in more compost, more manure, and exactly the same things happened. I did take lots of cuttings from them, and I've put more cuttings in, and it now appears that the cuttings, like if I took the cutting from this pale pink, it produced a pale pink plant, even though it's on that side. So I've deduced from that it's not the soil, it's the plant. So now I'm wondering, could it possibly be that the plants they supplied, this isn't the Ballerina, because the Ballerina should look like that, and perhaps this is a different variety of rose. I don't know. I'm quite tempted to contact the company and see what they suggest. But as it is, this is a very formal area, and it looks a bit weird really that 2 have got different colours. So I can't really decide what to do, whether I just mix and match them, so have a mixture of dark pink and pale pink and switch them about, or whether to take all the dark pink ones out and replace them. Can't really decide. So if anyone's got any ideas, let me know. But I'll just show you the anomaly between the 2 sides. So here you can see this dark pink variety next to this pale pink variety. Initially I was kind of half tempted to start again, take them all out and plant something different instead, but I must, because I wasn't sure whether I was that keen on them. But having been away, I was away last week, and when I came back, they're absolutely lovely. They look absolutely stunning. So I'm going to go with it, but I am tempted to sort of mix and match, because I think the dark pink and the light pink would look nice if they're all kind of mixed up. So I might do that. I might just mark each of the plant pale, dark, and then play around with them. These are, this is a cutting, so you can see that that's come back dark pink, but there are some paler pink cuttings as well that we've taken. I have done some more cuttings this year from the paler pink variety, so I'll infill any gaps here. So I'm now up in the big herbaceous borders up at the top of the garden, and do you know what, there's not a lot I would change in these borders. I'm really pleased with them. We've made lots of changes. I was quite depressed last year because I didn't think it looked very good, but this year I'm pleased with it. I love the colours. I love the pinks and this lovely phlox and the eupatorium and the achillea. It looks lovely. I love all the pinks and the creams and the whites. Very soft, very gentle. And we did the other video on the monarda, and that's looking really lovely. It's opened up even more since the video, and it's full of bees. Lots of activity on there. We've got some of the Verbena bonariensis is starting to open. I was a bit worried I'd weed it. Actually, I have weeded a lot of it out, maybe a little bit too much. So it's a bit sparse this year, but it has come back. And I know there are lots of seedlings in the borders, so it will be back again next year. On this side, again, it's looking quite nice. Last year had this side looked good, this side didn't look so good, but actually I think it's sort of evening out. We've got a lovely lobelia in the back here. Perhaps it's a bit wasted there, I don't know, but it's just about to open and it looks nice. We've put another hydrangea limelight on either side actually, and that's looking really good. It's looking lovely. Seems to have had a bit of crocosmia that's snuck into the border, and I don't really like that there, so I'm going to take that out. I do like crocosmia, but I don't want orange. I don't think orange works so well in that place. Here we've got the sunflower, these lovely burnt orange sunflowers next to the echinacea, and the sort of burnt orange of the sunflower is just reflected back in the centre of the echinaceas, and I think that's looking really lovely. In fact, you could argue that the crocosmia does go because it's got the pink and the orange. Maybe it does work actually. And we've got some of this Rodolphia, which looks kind of like dill. It's just sort of seeding itself through the borders, and that's looking good too. So yeah, overall I don't think there's a lot of changes I'd make to this border. So I'm now in the vegetable patch. I just wanted to show you some of the crops that we're now getting. We're picking quite a lot. We're eating quite a lot of our produce now. So on this side we've got some courgettes. I've got loads and loads of courgettes. And on this side we've got some sweet corn. The sweet corn just needs a bit of sun. We haven't had much sun recently, so I think we are forecast a bit of hot weather soon. So hopefully that will be enough just to ripen off the sweet corn. We've got nice big butternut squashes forming, so I'm really pleased to see that. After last year we didn't get very many. Now down here we've been picking there's one there, picking the potatoes, digging up the potatoes, and they've been lovely. So we've got the first ones, what were they, the iron pilots. No, were they iron pilots? Yeah, iron pilots. So we're digging those up, and then we've got the other two rows here. Down in this area, this is where we had a fantastic crop of broad beans. They were all here. So we'll post a picture of all the broad beans. We had a great big the green tub full. So we got lots and lots of those. We've put them all in the freezer, so we'll be using those throughout the year. Now this area is now empty, and I haven't really got anything to go in it. So what I'm doing this year is I'm going to try doing some green manure, which is the mustard seeds. So I've broadcast the seeds on this area, finally raked it in. The ground's nice and moist from the rain that we've just had, so I thought it's a good time to do it. And then the idea is that grows up, that will suppress the weeds, and then in the spring, before it starts to go to seed, it just needs to be dug into the area, and that will add nitrogen back into the soil and put some goodness back, ready for growing again next year. On this side I've got these dwarf beans. They're really lovely, and there's so many of them, they're so prolific. So I'm picking these. They need to be picked. Well, there's loads on there actually. I need to come out with a bucket, but they're really nice to freeze. So just top and tail them, and then pop them in the freezer, and then we just eat them throughout the year. So that's really good. Oh, it's lovely. The sun's just come out, and it just feels so much warmer when you get a bit of sunshine. Now this area is the area we did following on from, so the new seating area while we were doing that, we just sort of added this area. This is a kind of winter garden. We put in lots of plants that will look really good during the winter months. We've had some success, some failures, so a bit of revision will be needed. But on the whole, it's okay. We did put this hydrangea limelight just to sort of lift this area. It looks lovely. The colours look really good here, and against the dark hue, I think that would look nice. We did put this skimmia in here, which is in the wrong place. It doesn't like full sun, and until those hedges grow up, this area is in full sun. It probably won't be long term, but it's suffering a little bit. There's lots of yellow on the leaves. It's not looking so good, so that may have to be moved elsewhere. I did just pop in a pittosporum, I think it's called Tom Thumb. It's got this lovely purple foliage, and I thought that would look nice next to the hydrangea just to give her the darker foliage. We've got the nice viburnum, that's doing well. We've got the mahonia again, that's doing quite well. And then we've got the witch hazel, again, it's looking okay, but this centre bit here had lots of, well not lots, but 3 cornus. I think it's called, what was it called, midwinter, yeah, midwinter fire, but they've died. I don't know why, whether it was because we put the bark on the area and whether it was just a bit too rich, I don't know. But we have got some cornus cuttings coming on elsewhere in the garden, so we'll pop those in when they're a little bit more established. So yeah, so we do want cornus there because that would look lovely. On this side, we've got a pyrrhus, that's doing okay. We've got the sarcococca, the winter box. We did have 3, that one's died, don't know why. The other 2 look very healthy. This Acer Grisium is lovely, and already you can see the bark, the peely bark, how nice that is. Really love that. It's looking really good. And then this is a Calocarpa profusion, and it's got this lovely pink foliage, and this will turn into little purple berries in the winter. So I think this side's doing quite well. We do want to get the edging stones done. That will just make this area look a lot nicer. And then we have been discussing what we want to do in this area beyond, but that's some time in the future before we do that. So now in the working part of the garden, this is the compost heap. So you can see how busy we have been. Alistair particularly has been doing lots of hedging jobs, and he brings back all this waste. We've got laurel, we've got every kind of hedging, we've got lots of chippings, all the stuff I've been cutting back, the lupins and what have you. And as you can see, this big bay, which is huge, but it's still never big enough really. So what we need to do, we've realised, is have a holding bay next to this one, which will be where we put stuff like this. So this is a branch off one of the lime trees that snapped off. So that can go into the holding bay, ready to be shredded. That comes here, gets shredded, then gets put in here, then gets turned. So we're desperately in need of getting the mini digger in and processing all this and digging it, moving all the piles on. So that's something to do in the next few weeks really, and all this will need to be shredded. So a lot of work to do. So we've certainly identified a few jobs for the next few months. That should keep us busy. So this area, we did talk about doing digging out an area in the middle to make a rill. So that's another job if we get time. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us. I think the secret of a good garden is to constantly never be too happy, too satisfied, to constantly review, make changes, and that way it gets better and better every year. So thank you for watching, and join us in the next video. Bye for now.